And everybody has now joined the room.
Great, thank you. Good evening. I am calling this public hearing to order. In accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGLC 131, Section 40, in the Massachusetts Wetlands Ordinance, Boston City Code Ordinances, Chapter 7-1.4, the Boston Conservation Commission will hold this virtual public hearing this evening on February 25th, 2026, to review the following projects to determine what conditions, if any, the commission will impose in order to protect the interests of the public and private water supply, groundwater, prevention of pollution, flood control, prevention of storm damage, protection of fisheries and land containing shellfish, and protection of wildlife habitat. Public hearing this evening will be followed by our regular meeting. And in accordance with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, we are conducting this meeting online. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the Conservation Commission, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. Additionally, the meeting is being recorded. If you do not wish to be recorded, please turn off your video. Members of the public may have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comments on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. For the record, I am Michael Parker, Chair. Could staff please identify themselves?
Elena Itamari with the Environment Department.
Dee Hernandez with the Environment Department.
Mason Hagan with the Environment Department.
Great, thank you. Okay, I call the roll of commissioners present. Commissioner Sullivan,
John Sullivan.
Commissioner Linay,
Amy Linay.
Commissioner Wilson,
Mike Wilson.
Commissioner Herbst.
Ian Herbst.
Okay, great. Okay, first item on the agenda this evening, notice of intent for unassigned DEP and Boston file numbers from Epsilon Associates, Inc. on behalf of the City of Boston Public Facilities Department for the proposed site enabling work at the North End Community Center, including cutting and capping utilities, demolition of the Valerisi Boathouse, and improvements to the existing seawall at 471 Commercial Street in the North End. Resource areas, 25-foot waterfront area, coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage, 100-foot buffer to coastal bank, and 100-foot buffer to coastal beach. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Good evening, Chair Parker, Eric Rexford from Epsilon Associates, here on behalf of the proponent, the City of Boston Public Facilities Department. I'm also joined by a whole cast of characters. I won't call them out by name, but we have Sasaki, who is the architect and engineer.
Eric.
Turner Construction.
Eric, apologies. I don't mean to cut you off so early, but Chair Parker, I believe that Commissioner Linay needed to recuse herself.
Okay.
Because this is on Parks property, so I'll just...
Oh, it's on Parks property. I didn't see D. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Elena.
Okay, Eric, go ahead.
Yes. Joined by Turner Construction. Sasaki is here. They're the architects and engineers. Weston and Sampson is also with us. They're providing engineering services as well. And I believe Tom Kosmowski, the project manager for Public Facilities Department, is here.
Fantastic.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Thank you.
Okay. Who's going?
I'm going to go. If you can advance one slide, please, that'd be helpful. So yeah, we submitted a notice of intent for site enabling work at 471 Commercial Street. The location is shown in the area bounded by red. It encompasses the Mirabella pools and the bathhouse. And it's part of the larger Langone Park and Pupilo Field complex. Actually, if you jump ahead 2 slides, shows a little tighter view of the limit of work. The enabling work that's the subject of this notice of intent contemplates the demolition of the existing facilities shown on the screen now. So there are 2 pools, a deep and shallow pool, the bathhouse that is along the property line with the Coast Guard facility, and the splash pad. The city is proposing to do this work in advance of a redevelopment of the site to construct the North End Community Center. If you could jump forward 1 more slide. I'm going to provide a little bit of background. That project will be the subject of a separate notice of intent that will be submitted to the Conservation Commission later this spring. But just to provide some context for the work that's going to be described tonight, we are proposing to construct an approximately 50,000 square foot building that will host or house the North End Community Center. That facility will be operated by Boston Centers for Youth and Family, BCYF. Much of their programming that currently occurs over at the Nazaro Center a few blocks away will be relocated to this site. The bathhouse facilities that are on the site today will be incorporated into that design. Redevelopment of the site also will replace the existing pools with modern pool facilities, replace the existing splash pad, construct significant resiliency improvements, and otherwise improve the site with potentially a new Harbor Walk connection as well. Again, this is all subject of a separate notice of intent. The enabling work tonight is the prerequisite activities we need to do to be able to get to that project. So you could jump forward one more slide, please. Just a preliminary sketch of what will be constructed as part of the redevelopment project. This is the North End Community Center from Commercial Street looking out towards the harbor. The ball fields are to the left, Coast Guard Station to the right. Next slide, please. Just another perspective. This is from the harbor side looking back towards Commercial Street with, again, the Coast Guard facility on the left. Again, this will all be the subject of a separate notice of intent. Next slide, please. We will be, as part of the enabling work, as I mentioned, demolishing the existing bathhouse. That's this structure here, constructed circa 2000. I apologize. There's snow on the ground. It's hard to get photos of any site with snow, without snow these days. But the site's mostly impervious surfaces. If you go to the next slide, it's an image taken from a similar location looking back up towards Commercial Street. I want to point out a couple things here. One, that fenced-in area, that's the location of the current splash pad. That will be demolished as part of the enabling work. Of course, that splash pad will be incorporated into the site redevelopment, separate project. Also note the elevation change from Commercial Street down to the site here. Next slide, please. I didn't mention at the top, but much of the site is comprised of filled tidelands. That fill is contained by a coastal engineering structure that's primarily a granite block revetment around the perimeter, or at least the harbor frontage of the site. There's a couple different treatments of that revetment. In this location, the solid fill is contained by vertical granite blocks. If you go to the next slide, in front of the pool deck area, you still have that revetment. It's a little hard to see, it's in the shadow. But in this location, in front of the pools, at the top of that revetment is a cast-in-place concrete wall that's containing the fill, which of course includes the pool deck and pools. Next slide, please. A photo without snow. This is the pool deck and pools looking back towards the Coast Guard facility. That's the large brick building in the background, also the bathhouse. Again, the bathhouse, pools, pool deck will all be demolished as part of the site enabling work. Utilities will be cut and capped. Next slide, please. This work will occur in a few different resource areas. We've delineated the top of Coastal Bank as the blue and white dashed line. That is the landform behind the coastal engineering structure. There's also land subject to coastal storm flowage. That's the blue stippled area. There's a buffer zone to Coastal Bank. It extends 100 feet landward of the Coastal Bank. That's the green dashed line. And of course, under the ordinance, there's the waterfront area, which extends 25 feet landward from the top of Coastal Bank, and that's delineated by the dark blue line. We'll be altering that Coastal Bank, and demolition activities, of course, will be occurring in those other resource areas. Next slide, please. In addition to demolishing existing structures and facilities, ground improvements in anticipation of site redevelopment will be conducted as part of the enabling work. Within that green area, that's the approximate footprint of the proposed building. Ground improvements will include drilled displacement columns. That's compacted stone or grout that will densify the soil to support vertical construction above it. In the orange area, which is will be the location of the pool deck, and other facilities, there will be a cast-in-place concrete mat slab foundation that is in turn supported by H-piles, a network of H-piles that will be driven below grade. Next slide, please. And finally, the last tranche of work to be conducted is elevating the seawall. You'll recall from that earlier image looking back towards Commercial Street, the site is actually quite low. And so as part of the redevelopment, one of the primary goals of the North End Community Center project is to improve site resiliency, particularly with respect to sea level rise and coastal storms, consistent with Climate Ready Boston and planning documents for the North End. The approach to resiliency primarily is elevating the site, and that includes elevating the seawall. The top of the seawall today is at elevation 16.5 Boston City base, which for context is about the base flood, the current FEMA base flood elevation. So we're going up approximately 6 feet to the top of the seawall will be just below elevation 23.5 Boston City base. That's 3.5 feet above the base flood elevation for a 2070 1% storm. Again, this will be additive. We're going vertical on top of the existing seawall. That will remain in place. There'll be no further harborward encroachment of the seawall. But we'll also see in this section that was cut, we're picking up a segment of that harbor walk that will be a separate notice of intent. It's purely shown for informational purposes. With that, I'll turn it back over to the commission. Like I said, we have a whole bunch of the project team here. If you guys have questions, we're happy to answer them.
Great. Thank you, Eric. As someone who spent a lot of time over there while my daughter was growing up, very, very happy to see this happening. You had mentioned something about the Harbor Walk connection there, I think from Papulo over to the Coast Guard station. Is
Correct.
that going to be in the plans? I mean, when the NOI comes in, we'll talk about it further, but you said that was a potential, or is it?
Yeah, that's being carried as an alternative. And I think on the plans that we submitted to the commission, there's a conceptual alignment of that harbor walk in front of the seawall. It'll be a pile supported structure that's roughly shown on those plans. But yes, that would be included in that second notice of intent for the site redevelopment.
Okay, great. I don't think I have any questions on this. Eleanor, what do you have?
Thank you. Yes, just a few administrative notes. For the record, this project has been assigned a DP file number that is 006-2103. We have also assigned it a Boston file number, which is 2026-006. Other than that, there are photos in the drive folder for the commission's review from our site visit that happened last Thursday. And as Eric pointed out, this is the initial work, and we are expecting another filing for the rest of the work in the near future. And other than that, there have been a number of community meetings over the last year, over the last few years to inform the design. So there should be a log of that at some point in the future. And the draft conditions are ready to go for this project.
Okay, great. Could you repeat the DEP file number again? 00621 what?
Yes, of course. 006-2103.
03. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, you said you were capping the utilities. Where do you cap utilities for those existing structures?
That is a question I will defer to my colleagues from either Sasaki. I believe Sasaki will answer that.
Sure, I can answer that one. We'll be capping water and sewer services as they enter the site. Water comes in from Commercial Street, of course, and we're capping right behind the curb line. And then the sewer, there's an existing manhole behind the backstop of the fields there. We'll be capping right upstream of that manhole and maintaining the existing manhole.
Yeah, because generally water and sewer requires you to cap the water mains out in the street.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, the city won't necessarily give you a permit to dig the street till a couple of months from now. So I'm just bringing that to your attention. We get working on that, figure out what can be worked out. That's all. The what other utilities are out there you're capping or getting rid of?
Electric, gas, electric, communications.
Yeah. And where do you cap gas mains? Do you cap them on site? Do you cap them out in the street?
They'd be in the street. There'll be no gas service to the new building.
Oh, okay. So you will be out in the street anyway for the gas line. Yep.
Yep.
Now I was a little confused. I see you raising the seawall elevation 16 plus BCB to 23. When does that actually happen? Raising the seawall?
That's part of the enabling work.
It's part of the enabling work. So you're adding 7 feet of something, fill land, whatever. How do you support that extra 7 feet on an existing seawall? Or do you have enough information that you won't be sinking the existing seawall with the additional weight?
That'll defer to Steve as well, and I don't know if somebody from Weston and Sampson is on, but yes, that has been considered, Commissioner Sullivan.
Yeah. Nate, there's someone want to jump in. Generally, I'd say, yeah, here's Jake. Nate, jumping in.
Yeah, sure. Nate Seifert with Weston and Sampson. We have a structural mat slab underneath both pools and all the way to the edge of the seawall. It's all pile supported, and that mat slab is and the piles are designed to support the additional fill above it.
So you're going to be driving piles in order to support it, or you already have
Right.
existing?
No, driven piles. Yes, new driven piles.
And how far spaced are those piles along this whole seawall?
They're relatively close. I don't know where we're at right now. I believe they're about feet on center.
Spacing, Nate, the spacing was shown on that sheet that we gave to the commission.
Okay.
Bear with me one second,
Yeah.
Commissioner Sullivan. I'll pull that up for you.
Yeah.
They're relatively tightly spaced because
Right.
because of the weight. There's a lot of piles.
Yeah, I got that. And so when we mentioned the order of conditions, we're all staff this question is the order of conditions are ready. Did you realize that there's a lot of pile driving work going on to support this weight, this wall and structures?
That was a question for Eleanor.
Yeah, it's a question. Yeah, it's a question for everyone wants to take it, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
it's not minor work that's anticipated to raise that wall. That's
Yeah.
you know, I consider big time construction right along the edge of the water.
Yeah.
And you know, silt curtains and whatever else we might have there. If they got enough piles, it's going to take a bit of time to do that work. And then
That's
it's more
right.
the slab and everything else. So
We have spec silt curtains and booms in the water to account for that.
yep. Oh yeah, no, I'm sure your specs have it. I want to make sure the order has it.
Yeah, of course.
That's all. I'm just trying to make sure staff realizes the work of rebuilding the seawall, the way you propose 7 feet of structural fill and everything else to make it work right, is a construction project. It's not just demo project that we're doing, like we knock something down. That's all. It's
Yeah.
and
No. Yep. Thank you for pointing it out. And I know when the NOI comes in, staff will be more fully armed now because of your comments. Thank you.
are there any drainage structures, any outfalls along this whole length existing and planned?
I can answer that one also. There are 2 existing drain outfalls from the pool deck and the parking lot from the pool area. We would be replacing those with 2 new outfalls in similar locations going through the new seawall.
And are you building, assuming the land won't be raised up, that the seawall will be raised, are you having tide gates or some kind of tide structure to make sure we don't backflow underneath the seawall?
We would have tide gates. And again, that's, as Eric explained, that's not part of this filing yet, but it will be included in the future filing, the design for that.
All right, but you're building the seawall
Mhm.
now, so you're gonna have to put this pipe in there, right? You're gonna put the pipe
Sure.
in before you
Yeah.
build the wall, I assume.
Right. Yeah.
So it is kind of
Point. Yeah.
part of this one.
True. Yeah.
All right, I just want to make sure all that's on the record. You know, I know you got the plans.
Good
It's
point.
just, I want to
Mhm.
make sure that the order of conditions reflect all of that. You are going to have to make provisions now-ish, because I don't know when you're going to build these buildings. You said soon, but you know, the way things go, money-wise, it could be a little longer than soon. Just make sure that we have the tide gates in for anything that we've got that could bring water in and we protect ourselves. That's my only point.
Yeah. I know that our order of conditions have a pretty fully developed section on water in water work.
Yep.
But we'll have to look through them because this is a lot of work, as you point out. So
Yeah, that's all. No, I know you submitted a lot of stuff. We didn't talk about it, but that's kind of to me major construction work right alongside the waterfront. And I want to make sure the order of conditions covers us. That's all. That's all I had.
okay, thank you. Commissioner Wilson.
Sorry, I lost my mouse there. And I had sort of a similar question to Commissioner Sullivan, sort of what's the balance of the amount of construction that's happening relative to demo. But yeah, I think we dove into enough depth to make me feel confident about moving forward. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6. Yeah, I'm sorry. By pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Commissioner Herbst.
Yeah, I have questions about, I know that this has been going through the MEPA process and that both CZM and DEP had concerns and wanted to understand more the impact of bringing in, of raising the land elevation by 6 feet, the impacts to the sides. And I know they required a flood analysis on that, and that they found, that there'll be some impacts, but they characterized them as minor. I looked at the comments and I see that the cert will be issued on March 2nd. So I would want to wait to see what were the comments for that and what does the final cert say, because often what I've seen is that things left dangling or of concern often say, well, that'll be worked out in the local permitting process. So I would want to wait, especially since it's only a few days, to see what comes of that and what might be referenced for us to look at.
Okay, but would that have any impact on the work that they're doing now, the prep work? Or
yes, that's about raising the seawall and bringing in the material.
Okay. Am I mistaken? The NOI in front of us is for the prep work. They're not doing. I mean, Eric, maybe I'm confused. Eric, what sort of work are you doing?
Yeah, so we are doing the demolition and the prep work that we
Oh,
described, but we're
okay.
also elevating the seawall as part of this
Okay.
initial package.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, no,
So that-
Commissioner Herbst, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, similar to some of what Commissioner Sullivan was saying, it's a big project and a big part of it is happening now, or is
Yep.
being permitted now.
Understood. Okay. Was that it for your comments?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Elena, any hands raised?
Thank you. I do not see any hands raised, and there's nothing in the inbox either.
Okay, great. Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to continue the hearing. And Eric, this is to so we can examine the certification issued by the MEPA office.
Yeah, understood. That as Commissioner Herbst pointed out, that's expected in the coming days. If I get any comments from CZM or the regional office, would that be sufficient to pass along to commission staff in lieu of the certificate?
That would be helpful.
Sure.
But isn't
Yeah.
the certificate will be issued or is expected to be issued before we meet again? We will have a chance to see that.
I'll pass that along as well, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that I find the comments helpful. I mean, usually they attach them to the end of the cert, but if you have them, I feel that'd be helpful. Okay. Okay, so a motion to continue the hearing?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Sullivan,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst,
Aye.
and I vote aye. That carries 4-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is notice of intent for DEP file number 006-2101 from LEC Environmental Consultants on behalf of the Massachusetts Port Authority for the proposed replacement of the fire boat dock facility and improvements to the ferry terminal dock, including the replacement of the floating dock and gangway systems and the replacement of the wave screen at Harborside Drive in East Boston. Resource areas: land under ocean, land containing shellfish, designated port area, land containing land subject to coastal storm flowage, and 100-foot buffer to coastal bank. Who's here on behalf of their proponent?
Yes, thank you, Chair Parker, members of the commission. I'm Chris Bush, Senior Environmental Planner with Massport, here this evening with Chet Myers, our Deputy Director for Maritime Projects, as well as a few of our consultants, Mark Manganiello of LEC Environmental and Andrew Nilsson with Childs Engineering. And I will hand it off to Mark and Andrew to proceed through the project details.
Thank you, Chris. Again, I'm Andrew Nilsson with Child Engineering. I'll be starting out and then handing it off to Mark. But we will be discussing both fire dock and the ferry terminal for Massport. If we go to the next slide, please. Two facilities are located not directly adjacent, but very close together in Jeffreys Cove in the Boston Harbor, right next to Logan Airport, and then also behind the Hyatt Hotel and the Massport office. So the commission may remember that we were here in roughly November of last year doing a notice of intent for soil borings at these two sites. That was to help out in the engineering for the project that we're going to be talking about tonight. So broadly speaking, we could say that this is generally a replacement of the fire dock and then repairs at the ferry dock. If we could go to the next slide, please. So two aerial images here. The fire dock on the left-hand side was constructed in 1971 and then substantially repaired in 1995, where it's remained roughly the same since then. And then adjacent to that is the ferry dock, similar to the fire dock. It was constructed in the 80s, and then it's reached its final footprint where it currently is now in the late 90s, and no real upgrades to it since then. I will say that Massport over the last few years has spent a considerable amount of money repairing both structures and doing engineering studies on the structures to help understand what their life cycle looks like in the near future. And those engineering studies have pretty much all agreed with the assumption that both facilities, at least in part, are reaching the end of their service life. So this project aims to conduct repairs and replacements to both of them. Next slide, please. So just a couple of photos taken from the adjacent harbor walk of the fire dock. They're taken at roughly low tide, so it kind of gives you a better impact of the visuals as to what's there currently. There's a lot of timber piers that are in the way, so you can't really see the actual fire vessels for Massport Fire. A lot of these structures, or all of these structures, I should say, are going to be removed as part of the project. Next slide, please. And then some photos taken from the water side, just showcasing the fire vessels that are currently on the site. Next slide, please. And then ferry dock. There's no permanent mooring or berthing here. This is all just transient vessels. There's water taxis that access portion of it. It houses or one port for the MBTA Hull, Hingham, and Logan line for the ferries. There's a front loading ferry area and a side loading ferry there as well. And there's a significant portion of it dedicated on what would be the south side to water taxis. Next slide, please. And then also included with the ferry dock is a wave screen that's a little bit farther offshore from the floating dock. You can see that in the photo on the right-hand side of the slide. It's constructed of timber. You can actually see in the photo that there's a lot of material missing. It's gone. It's rotted away and sort of floated away over the course of the years. So that was one of the things that was noted heavily in all the engineering assessments of the facility, that the wave barrier is sort of in significant disrepair at the moment. And then the photo on the left-hand side shows one of the ways you can access the floats from a fixed pier portion of the site. There's ADA compliant gangways that are on site, and then pointing in another direction towards the south, there's non-ADA compliant, and all of the gangways at this site are covered with that blue tarping. Next slide, please. And this is just another view of the ferry dock from what you would see at the Harbor Walk. Again, this is adjacent to the Hyatt Hotel. Next slide, please. So speaking about what the proposed projects include, for the fire dock, as we said, is pretty much just a replacement. I would say it's a replacement in kind. There are some changes to it. More or less, it will look relatively similar to what is there currently, with the exclusion that a lot of the structure is actually going to be removed. Some of the structure that's there currently, like those timber piers that we could see in those low tide photos, those are no longer used. They were part of the original 1971 construction. Some of it's used for storage by Massport Fire, but they don't really have any use for it currently. So it would be a benefit to the project as a whole if during the project they were removed from the site. So that's one of the main things that we're going to be doing. It's the goal of this is really to bring the facility up to a more modern standard, more resilient to storms in the future and also flooding conditions. That was one thing that Massport has noted in several different engineering studies conducted over the last 5 or 10 years, is that it does lack resiliency during storm events, which is important for an emergency facility such as this. So this project aims to curb some of those issues. Overall, the footprint will be going down pretty significantly, mostly because that timber portion is going to be removed. But the actual usable portion is going to look relatively similar to what's there currently. If we go to the next slide, please. So this is an engineering plan showing the existing conditions. You can see at the top of the plan, that's the Harbor Walk. When the fire department personnel access the float, they walk down the Harbor Walk. They go across one aluminum gangway, past a security barrier, and down onto the actual floats. A lot of that's not going to change. You can also see the L-shaped timber portion, as well as 3 timber dolphins that are offshore of the floats. In a few different directions, those are going to be removed. Important to note here, 800 square feet of float and 1,200 square feet of float there existing. And if we go to the next slide, this is the proposed project conditions. So the floats themselves will be going up in size a little bit, from 1,200 square feet to a little bit over 1,400 square feet, and then from 800 to about 960 square feet. Purpose of that is to provide Massport with just a little bit better platform for them to conduct their operations. Again, as we said, we're going to be removing that L-shaped timber pier along with the 3 timber dolphins. And a few other important things to note here is we're sort of reorienting the floats just a little bit here and there, particularly that one on the northern side or the left-hand side of the slide. This relatively minor change actually allows Massport a pretty significant upgrade in the number of berthing areas that they can access. Massport doesn't really have any intentions, at least at this point, as a result of this project, to increase the number of vessels that they have there. But in the future, if things repairs need to be made to one floating dock and not the other, they can sort of move an entire fleet over and out of the way so that work can be conducted, where that's not really the case right now. They're very limited as to where they can move vessels, especially their larger 79-foot American United vessel. They can't really move that anywhere else. They would have to just pretty much leave the Massport site entirely. So these minor changes really provide Massport Fire with some significant resiliency. And next slide, please. So moving over to the ferry terminal, this is more of a repair than a replace. Significant portions of the waterfront facility are going to remain in place. We'll see on the next slide in just a second here, but there's a pile-supported pier that's going to remain in place, and it's only going to get a few minor repairs to the piles and the concrete deck that will help it last an additional 30 years. But the actual outshore portion of that, including the gangways and the floating docks, those will be replaced. And the timber wave screen that's currently in place right now will be replaced in its entirety as well, with a slightly different orientation, as we'll see in a moment. There's also be upgrades to utilities and some of the pedestrian access, making things just a little bit nicer and a little bit safer for the pedestrians that use this on a daily basis. Next slide, please. So this is the existing condition plan for the site. All the floating docks there currently are highlighted in gray. So there's quite a few floats there at the moment, where they have on the left-hand side or the north side, that would be like the cradle for the front load ferry. And then just south of that would be where all of the side load ferries are. And then continuing south of that, there's 4 large floats. Those are for water taxis. Now, during construction, it's the intent of Massport to actually use a large portion of this space on the south of these 4 floats to relocate the fire operations during the construction of the new fire dock. So it's really not only minor change for the actual firefighters when they have to access the vessels, they have to just go a little bit farther down the harbor walk. But a lot of the upgrades are going to be done to this pier prior to that, including like upgrading the utilities so that the fire vessels can continue to operate on a constant basis. So some of this portion that we can see here from the gangway on the south-hand side is going to be closed off to the public, at least temporarily during construction. Next slide, please. So this would be the proposed conditions of the site. The actual floating docks themselves, the total square footage isn't planning to change at any point. It's just a slight reorientation of it and optimization of it. Really, we're still going to have the side load ferry, the front load ferry, and the water taxi area. One relatively major change is that the wave barrier is going to change locations just a little bit, and it's also going to change orientation. The reason for this is because we conducted a pretty comprehensive wave study of the area and a wind study. We determined that what is in place currently doesn't actually protect the facility from the predominant wind and waves. So making these changes will protect, it will make a significant difference to the boats as they come in and out, and for the pedestrians as they're accessing the floating docks. And at the top of the plan here, there's a pile supported pier. That's the portion that's going to remain in place, and it's only going to receive repairs. So there's going to be a lot of repairs that are happening underneath that. And again, that's not to change the structure in any way. It's just to make sure that it can continue to last an additional 30 years. And then I'll hand it over to Mark here.
Thank you. Again, I'm Mark Manganello with LEC Environmental. If you could go to the next slide, please. So wetland resource areas and impacts. The wetland resource areas associated with this project and the site include land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, rocky intertidal shore, coastal bank, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. The site's also within a designated port area. Rocky intertidal shore is the intertidal portion of the riprap slope that extends along the shoreline. We saw that in a few of the photos. No work is proposed within this resource area. Coastal bank is contiguous with the top of the riprap revetment and the land behind the concrete pier at the ferry terminal. No works proposed on the coastal bank. There's minor temporary disturbance to the coastal bank buffer zone as a result of utility connections at each structure. These utility connections are depicted on the plans. Land subject to coastal storm flowage is present. The coastal floodplain as mapped by FEMA. It's a velocity zone, elevation 13. The temporary utility disturbances will occur within this resource area. It's a total of 162 square feet. Land under the ocean is present, of course, associated with the subtidal areas between the two structures, beneath the two structures, seaward of mean low water. Land containing shellfish is present as well. These are subtidal and intertidal areas around the structures. There were no field surveys conducted for shellfish, but available information indicates that the area provides poor quality benthic habitat for shellfish. Project impacts to land under the ocean and land containing shellfish total 158 square feet. That's resulting from the new piles. As Andrew mentioned, the total number of piles and the footprint of piles is reduced with the proposed project when compared to existing conditions. For the fireboat dock, the number of piles is reduced from 82 to 32. For the ferry terminal, the number of piles is reduced from 176 to 145. Next slide, please. So mitigation, the project design itself is a form of mitigation in that it accomplishes a net reduction in overall structural footprint at each location and in the number of piles at each location. Turbidity curtains are proposed to be used during construction to minimize silt and sediment movement within the construction area. Standard pile driving restrictions will be followed to minimize noise and vibration during construction. And DMF has commented that no additional restrictions beyond the pile driving restrictions and turbidity curtains are required as part of their review. So that's the project mitigation. Overall, it will have minimal environmental disturbances and can be conditioned to protect the interests of the wetland resource areas associated with the project. And that's our presentation. Be happy to turn it over to you all for questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I had a question about the wave barrier. It's being increased significantly. It's being moved. And I know it's being moved to be further protective of the infrastructure there. But, and you did some wind studies and wave studies. And it feels like maybe they were confined to protecting the infrastructure. Did you do anything about what the impact of the relocated and enlarged wave barrier would be to like adjacent properties, to resource areas?
Yeah, so when we conducted our wave study, we looked at the waves as they extend out beyond the bounds of the ferry dock. And one of the goals of the design was to not increase any of the how the waves interact with any of the adjacent structures. So that's why we ended up falling with the shape that we've got.
So do I understand that as this reconfiguration is more targeted, and the former configuration, because it was misplaced, might have had more impacts on adjacent properties and resource areas? Is that what
I
you're
don't think
saying?
I can say that the existing one currently has more impacts than what's there currently. I can say that we're not increasing how the waves interact with the adjacent structures. Again, that's the function of the shape of it. So as the predominant waves are going to be coming into that structure, they're going to not have the ability to wrap around and meet up and gain a larger shape again.
Okay.
Which is sort of what currently happens there now. We did not do a wave study as to what is actually happening to the structure or the adjacent structures right now.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. As far as the DMF conditions, those will be, Elena, those will be right in the order of conditions, correct?
Yes, those are already in there.
Okay. Okay. That's all I had. Eleanor, what do you have?
Thank you. Yeah, we just wanted to confirm again that the conditions have been reviewed by the project team and are ready to go. We also heard back from DMF, and they do not have any resource area concerns as long as the all of the precautions are implemented, which are already included in the filing.
Okay, great. Before I go to Commissioner Sullivan, just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment, please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Commissioner Sullivan?
Are we pulling all the wood piles in the pile field?
Yeah, the intent is to pull them all.
Pull them all. And the new piles you're driving are all steel?
Correct.
Okay. What is the elevation? It may not have directly this, but the bearing, but the elevation of that seawall, what is the elevation that you're connecting to?
It's roughly 10 feet relative to NAVD 88.
Yeah.
That's
And
the harbor walk, yeah.
Right. And any of your resiliency plans call for it to be higher? Given in the next 30 years, sea level rise, et cetera. Are there plans for that seawall to be higher by 2 or 3, 4 feet?
There's no plans for the harbor walk as a part of this project, but I think Chet might have a comment on this.
I'm going to have to go back and double check, but I think the Harbor Walk is probably higher than +10 NAVD 88.
Yeah.
We have actually done, as you know, Commissioner Sullivan, quite a few studies associated with climate change and its potential impact on the airport and all the infrastructure associated with the airport. I don't believe raising the Harbor Walk is an immediate goal for Massport, but Chris, you've been more involved in that, and you could probably speak
there's
to
an
it as well.
existing seat wall, granite seat wall above the Harbor Walk, which I think gives another foot or two of elevation. And we've reviewed this area as part of the Army Corps coastal risk study. Most of the flood pathway issues, are actually further to the north, further in the cove, closer to Tomahawk Drive. So flooding in this area is mostly just fringe flooding. I know that there's currently a capital programs project underway right now evaluating upgrades and repairs to the Harbor Walk. So I can get back to you with further detail if that's more near-term improvements or to what extent sort of longer range elevation would be considered. But obviously, we have our own flood-proof design guidelines as well, which we've had in place for over a decade with design flood elevations that apply to new projects.
Yeah, I was more concerned with utilities that you might be bringing down to these facilities. Would they be buried too deep, or should they be raised higher now? If you were raising that wall, in the near future, like in the next 5, 10 years, or you just go dig them all up and put them all in new then. I did. That's all.
Commissioner Sullivan, the primary aim of this project is to replace the floating infrastructure as opposed to landside infrastructure. And the floating infrastructure will be designed associated with potential future climate change impacts. So the pile length and such are going to be sized to accommodate future climate change. And since that will be already as part of the design, the connection to landside utilities will accommodate that as well, regardless of the landside elevation.
Yeah. And does a fireboat facility have a pump out station for the sewage that they don't live aboard the boat, or how does the sewage work on that boat?
They do not have any pump out there. They bring the boat offsite if they need to do any pump out.
Yes.
Okay.
They have water.
Yeah.
Water collection.
Right. And the final question was, while you're doing all this work, does you have to build a temporary facility for the fireboat somewhere, or are they going to be laying over somewhere else?
So we have a rather complicated sequencing plan where we're going to have to move the fire operations over to the ferry terminal while we do the fire dock construction, and then we'll move it back to the fire dock, and then we will stage reconstruction of the ferry terminal in pieces to get that complete. But yes, it is foremost in our minds that we need to ensure that the public continues to have waterside access to Logan, and the fire dock. The fire personnel still need to be able to perform their duties even during construction.
Right. Yeah, that's all I had.
Okay. Quick follow-up to Chris. When you talked about the Army Corps of Engineers risk study, I know that the City of Boston just entered a partnership with ACOE. Are you referring to an earlier Army Corps risk study, maybe done for the state? Which one are you?
This is the ongoing coastal risk study. So the Army Corps, they've been going neighborhood to neighborhood, working with the Climate Ready Boston team with their proposed design measures to address these flood pathways. So again, based upon the modeling It's been developed by the Corps, which is somewhat consistent with the Mass Coastal Flood Modeling. There is an area there where there's a couple of different options and solutions of land elevation, either roadway elevation, harbor walk elevation, to address a flood pathway in that location. So we're still working with them on preferred design options, but that's part of the current study being led by Kate Rusa with the city's team.
Oh, fantastic. So, pretty current information. So, are you seeing any inconsistencies between the Massachusetts coastal study and what's happening now? Or are the findings fairly consistent?
In terms of the flood pathways, I think for the most part, most of those models are matching up for the most part. I don't know if Kat McCandless is on as well from Climate Ready this evening, but I think that there was an initial concern as part of the core study, but I think there's been consensus that with the Corps having to utilize their federal model, for the most part, that matches and works with the inundation zones, pathways, extents that the Mass Coastal model has come forth with. So.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Linay.
Oh, my questions have been answered. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, same here. Way to go, team.
Okay. Commissioner Herbst.
No questions. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Elena, did we hear anything? Any hands raised? Anything in the chat?
No
Emails?
hands raised, nothing in the chat, nothing in the inbox either.
Okay, so I think the motion is to close the hearing, issue the order of conditions. I didn't hear any special conditions because the DMF condition encompasses the DMF notification we received, right?
Correct, yeah, and DMF didn't have any additional conditions that they wanted applied to the project.
Understood. Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to issue the order of conditions and close the hearing.
So moved.
Give
Second.
a second. Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan,
Aye.
Commissioner Linay,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst,
Aye.
and I vote aye. That carries 5-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda. Oh, this was my confusion earlier on number 1. Okay, I mashed up 1 and 3 together for some. Okay, I get it. Okay, next item on the agenda: request for a determination of applicability from Weston and Sampson on behalf of the City of Boston Office of Climate Resiliency or Resilience to conduct up to 9 soil test borings along the waterfront adjacent to Border Street and New Street in East Boston. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Hi, Haley Page here from Weston and Sampson. I'm joined by Kat McCandless from the City of Boston. I believe our presentation, we're going to start giving a little bit of background on the existing conditions on the site, and then we will jump into a little bit more on the actual proposed borings. Kat, are you on right now?
Yes, I am. Hi. Hi, Chair Parker, and hi to the
Hello.
commissioners. It's good to see you, and I hope you're all doing well in the aftermath of Monday's blizzard. So my name is Kat McCandless. I'm with the City of Boston's Office of Climate Resilience. I'm a senior climate resilience project manager and have been the city's project manager for the Resilient Border Street Waterfront project. So as Haley mentioned, I'm joined by Haley from Weston and Sampson, who's been the lead consultant for the project. We're here seeking approval to do up to 9 geotechnical borings to inform the design of this coastal resilience infrastructure project. So I'll kick things off with just a quick overview of the project and then pass to Haley to talk about the borings and where they're located. So next slide. Great. So this project is being led by the city's Office of Climate Resilience and is located on the western side of the East Boston neighborhood. This is a coastal resilience infrastructure project that is intended to address one of the largest near-term flood pathways in the East Boston neighborhood. We kicked off this work in 2024, and we have been steadily advancing through the schematic design process since. So next slide. Thank you. So zooming in a little bit on the project area, the photos show that this project area is already vulnerable to flooding today based on past flood events, with photos shown here in January of 2024. We know the incidents of coastal flooding are projected to become more frequent and more intense over time due to climate change. And the flood pathway that this project seeks to close poses a risk not only to the immediate waterfront, but to the Callahan and Sumner tunnels, the MBTA Blue Line, over 1,000 residential properties, and countless businesses and critical facilities that serve the neighborhood, but also the region. A unique aspect of this project is that the land on which the infrastructure is being designed is actually entirely privately owned. So the city and the private property owners have been working together in partnership to design coastal resilience, or a coastal resilience solution that protects not only the waterfront properties, but the community as a whole. And a big reason, or the primary reason, that the city stepped in to lead this project is because this project area is entirely in a designated port area, which has limited redevelopment of the private properties that would have otherwise enabled the private property or the private landowners to do this work independently. So we're essentially stepping in, working with them, and working to design a coastal resilience solution across approximately 8 private properties. Next slide, please. So the existing coastal infrastructure across the project area consists of a mix of sheet pile walls, stone revetments, and more, all of which, as you can see by these photos, is in an incredibly poor and deteriorated condition. This brings me to the next slide, please, which is our goals. Sorry, waiting for the next slide.
Next slide. Yeah, please. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So the primary goals of this project are to reduce the current and future flood damage, to protect East Boston residents, infrastructure, utilities, and structures from coastal flooding, primarily by repairing the degraded coastal infrastructure and gradually raising the elevation along the waterfront. Additionally, we are hoping to improve public access, connectivity, and open space along the waterfront where possible, recognizing the constraints of the designated port area, while also maintaining public safety and not disrupting existing uses, particularly any water-dependent industrial uses. I do want to emphasize that this is not a redevelopment project, so we're not proposing any new or retrofitted buildings as part of this work, but we're just focusing on the coastal infrastructure. As I mentioned, we are partnering with the waterfront landowners on the design of the project. So I want to note that the landowners have all reviewed the submitted RDA and provided permission for this work to take place on their property. So we're just here tonight seeking approval for the borings, and we'll be back at a later date, likely or hopefully sometime next year, with a full notice of intent once the design is further along. So now I will pass it over to Haley to talk about the borings.
Thanks, Kat. Okay, we can move ahead to the next slide, please. So this is just a topographic map showing those locations of the 6 parcels where we are proposing these borings to occur. If you move ahead to the next slide, please. So this is a bit of a more zoomed in picture with an aerial where you will see these 6 parcels zoomed in further. We are proposing borings at 36 New Street, 60 Border Street, 120 through 124 Border Street, 170 Border Street, 246, 260 Border Street, and 276R Border Street. This table corresponds with the numbers on this figure, which was included in the submission. Please move ahead to the next slide. So just to note that a few of the borings are located within land subject to coastal storm flowage associated with the 100-year flood zone. So across these 6 parcels, the FEMA zone AE spans from 11 feet NAVD 88 or 17.46 BCB to elevation 10 NAVD 88 or 16.46 BCB. And you'll see on the figure to the left, the first 3 parcels are located. And then if you flip ahead to the next slide, you'll see the next 3 parcels are also located within the flood zone. We can move ahead to the next slide, please. So this table is to summarize where the various soil borings are located. So of the 9 borings, are only located within land subject to coastal storm flowage and the 100-foot buffer zone to coastal beach and coastal bank. The work is expected to take approximately 10 days. Sedimentation and erosion control devices will be installed appropriately around each boring location during the construction and then removed upon completion. All equipment is proposed to be stored outside of any resource areas or 100-foot buffer zones associated with the site. Please move ahead to the next slide. So as for impacts, we are looking at 6.3 square feet of impact to both land subject to coastal storm flowage and 100-foot buffer zone to coastal bank and coastal beach. All of these impacts will be temporary in nature in regard to the borings and will be restored to the best practical extent to pre-construction conditions. It is to be noted that a conservative boring diameter of 12 inches was used to impact these calculations to account for the temporary sediment and erosion controls as well. And we just wanted to point out that although there is 25-foot waterfront area, coastal beach, and coastal bank located within the site parcels, there will be no impacts to these areas. Please move ahead to the next slide. Okay, yeah. So here are the plans to point out where these borings are. You'll see that there's 2 sheets here separating out these parcels. I don't know if maybe we open it up for questions at this point, if it may make sense to have these plans open to walk through any of the locations, if there's any questions. But I think we can open it up at this point. Thank you so much for your time.
Great, thank you. I think that's a great idea to leave that slide up. Just a couple quick questions from me. The photos that we saw earlier during Kat's presentation, they were dated January 13th, 2024. And I know I should probably know the answer to this, but what happened on the 13th of January 13th of 2024? Was it a storm? Was it a high tide?
Yeah, this was a nor'easter that we had a couple of years ago. So we have nearly missed a few significant flooding events since, even a few days ago. If the storm had hit us just a few hours at a different point in time, we would have potentially seen more flooding in this area. But that is the last time that we have pretty substantial photographic evidence of the flooding.
Okay, thank you. And excuse me for melding all my nor'easters together here. So quick question about the properties there. One was Capital Waste Systems. So what goes on there? Is it what it says? Is it like a recycling center, a transfer station? What?
Yeah, so Capital Waste Systems is one of the trash and recycling collecting companies in the area. They have a contract with the city of Boston. They don't really use this property for their recycling and trash business. There's a building on the property that is pretty much condemned, and so they don't have anything inside of it. They do have some parking on the outside, or like on the part of the park or of the lot that's closer to Border Street. But otherwise, it's just used for parking, and there's no active industrial uses taking place on the site.
Okay, good. You can see my concern. Based on what Casella does in Charlestown, that could be a lot of waste going in during a flood into the harbor. The other quick question I had was East Boston CDC. I remember they came before us. They got an order of conditions to, I think it was to build housing there, and maybe it was a mixture of housing and designated port area type activities. Nothing's happened with that site, has it?
No,
I believe because of its location, because of the potential for flooding, or other issues.
I think it was mostly I'm not entirely sure on the background of this. I think this was a few years ago that came forward. I want to say it was a combination of not supported uses and the designated port area. So they haven't built anything on the site.
Understood. Okay, thank you. Eleanor, what do you have?
Thank you. I think that Kat and Haley's presentation really covered everything. I did want to flag that we did not conduct a site visit for this phase of permitting, but we intend to do so during the next phase of permitting. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *6 and *9 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, did you mention how deep each of these borings are, and are they all the same depth?
So I believe in the project narrative there, it kind of will be dependent on what type of boring and where refusal is. I'm not a geotech by any means. I'm an environmental scientist. So just kind of going off what the narrative says, it looks like will be up to 10 feet of bedrock rock coring is planned, upper 10 to 15 feet. So it looks like 10 to 15 feet maximum, but like I said, I'm not a geotech and I'm just skimming the project narrative right now. Okay, sorry, I apologize. It says depth to about 130 feet below ground surface looks to be the deepest depth that is proposed. And of course, it would be till refusal. They're not going to keep digging if there's nothing to keep digging to.
Right. And when I look at the waterfront, at least we know downtown, they continually expanded an existing seawall, then somebody added another seawall, then there was a third seawall. Were you able to look at historicals to say where you're trying to put these borings, there's good chance there's nothing in the way?
I personally did not do overlays. I'm not sure exactly what took place with the geotech team and the point of determining the locations. But I believe that's why up to 9 are proposed. So if any of these may need to be shifted from one location to the other, there's some variation to make the determination on where the best locations are for the borings to occur.
I can also add on that the civil engineering team at Weston and Sampson weighed in on the locations, and part of the reasoning for the different locations was based on historical information, but also to try to make sure that we had at least one boring per location within per property within the project area. And then the two different types of borings, the CBT and the SBT, were selected to try to make sure that we had kind of a spectrum of information collected across the project area, so that we'd have information about each site, because each site is likely going to have a slightly different approach to the coastal resilience infrastructure design.
Right. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Linay?
Kind of related to that, I was actually curious to understand the differences in the two types of borings. I don't know if that's something you can relate or you can answer, but also what the decision process was for selecting each one.
Yes, that is. Oh, Haley, you want to take that?
I was going to say, I can't speak completely. I believe the main difference is the methodology and what data results from the types of borings. As far as my extent goes, I don't know, Kat, if you have anything else otherwise.
Yeah, it is, I think, based on the size it's like the type of penetration that's used and the types of material that gets collected out from that. But I'm also not a geotechnical engineer. If you have more questions about that, I'm happy to follow up with that information.
No, I was just curious to learn for myself. So it's fine. And then I guess maybe related to Commissioner Sullivan's question, I was curious what your anticipated, what you would expect to find in terms of groundwater here, if that's something that you think is going to be an issue, or if that's just really kind of what you'll learn from this process.
I think that's what we're going to learn from this process, or part of what we're going to learn from this process.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, no further questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Herbst?
Sorry. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Elena, any hands raised? Anything in the chat?
Nothing in the chat, no hands raised, nothing in the inbox either.
Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability with the standard erosion control conditions.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, just for the other commissioners, remember, it isn't January anymore, so I'm all set. Aye.
You know, it was so funny when I reviewed the first notes meetings in January, it was astounding to see that you made every single motion. And
I know, that's what happens. So you get it once a year. You get my motions once a year.
Just want to go back to those days. Okay, Commissioner Sullivan said aye. Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 5-0. Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Have a good night.
Okay, good night. Next item, request for a determination of applicability from Alexis Kirsch for the removal of a hazardous Norway maple and stump grinding at 68 Kenrick Street in Brighton. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
I, Alexis Kirsch, am here to represent myself, the owner
Good
of
evening.
68
You're,
Kenrick Street. Good evening.
you're pro se. You're so brave.
Oh, thank you. I didn't really know what I signed up for, but here we are. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I'm ready for the slides.
Great.
So I am filing an RDA for the removal and stump grinding of one structurally compromised invasive Norway maple tree that's within the 100-foot buffer zone of Chandler Pond. Next slide. As you can see on this mass mapper, the site lies entirely within the buffer zone of Chandler Pond, but the project doesn't impact the wetlands themselves. You can see at the bottom of this map, there's a dotted line that has the approximate wetland boundary. That's Chandler Pond. And our yard is within the 100-foot buffer zone. The 50-foot buffer zone goes about halfway to our house, and then the 100-foot buffer zone goes to the sidewalk. The hazardous Norway maple tree is that X right above the 50-foot buffer zone at about 52 feet within the buffer zone. Next slide. To give you a better idea of why this project is necessary to mitigate the risk of the tree failure, it's to both protect public safety and private property. The neighbor directly next to us, you can see the tree, the size proximity. It has a prominent lean that has been deemed hazardous by arborists and landscapers. And then towards the sidewalk, there are utility lines that if it did end up failing, it would affect. Next slide, please. Here are some photos of the hazardous tree. As you can see, the prominent lean, not only is it invasive, but it's structurally compromised. The photo in the middle, that pinkish house, that's the neighboring residence that it's leaning towards, the biggest risk. And then the photo to the left, you can see the utility lines that are very close and creating a risk. And then the third photo on the right, you can just see the size of it and why it's necessary to take preventative measures. Next slide, please.
We're a little slow on the slides tonight. There we go.
No rush, and I might be going faster
Time to
than you
breathe.
can look at the
Yeah.
photos, so no rush. So for the proposed work and impact assessment, crane-assisted sectional removal will be necessary because of the tree size and proximity to the structures and utility lines. Also a chainsaw, a stump grinder, small support equipment, and then debris hauling vehicles will be used. As far as the vegetation goes, only the tree and the stump will be removed. No other vegetation will be disturbed. For the soils and hydrology, the soil disturbance will be minimal and limited to the stump area. No grading, filling, or drainage alterations are proposed. For the wildlife habitat, the removal of a single invasive tree doesn't actually reduce the habitat value necessarily, but it also may improve the native species establishment. And as far as the erosion and sedimentation goes, temporary controls will be used if necessary, and all disturbed soils will be stabilized immediately after the work. All the equipment and all the operations are not in the wetland resource area, and no materials will be stockpiled within the buffer zone. Any wood debris will be removed or reused on site as mulch. Next slide, please. For performance standards and compliance, the proposed activity complies with the Wetland Protection Act and Boston Wetlands Ordinance performance standards as follows. For the protection of wetlands, no work occurs within the wetlands. The buffer zone disturbance is minimal. For flood control and storm damage prevention, the removal actually reduces the risk of property damage during extreme weather events. For water quality protection, there will be no pollutants, debris, or equipment that are going to enter the wetlands. For wildlife habitat preservation, only one invasive tree is removed, preserving native vegetation and wildlife habitat functions. Where the presumption set forth in 310 CMR 1054-3, it is not overcome. Any proposed work on a bank shall not impair the following: This work will not affect the stability of the bank. This work will not affect the water carrying capacity. This work will not affect the groundwater and surface water quality. This work will not affect the capacity of the bank to provide breeding habitat, escape cover, or food for fisheries. And this work will not affect the capacity of the bank to provide important wildlife habitat functions. Next slide, please. For climate change and resilient considerations, the first will be risk reduction. Removing this tree reduces the likelihood of tree failure during increased storm intensity that's associated with climate change. For public safety and infrastructure protection, proactive removal minimizes the risk to the adjacent residential structures, overhead utility lines, emergency access, particularly during storms. For the buffer zone, function preservation avoids disturbance to wetland resource area, and it maintains the protective functions of the 100-foot buffer zone, including storm damage prevention and erosion control. For the ecological resilience, the removal of invasive species will support long-term ecosystem health and create opportunities for native climate resilient vegetation, better adapted for future environmental conditions. And for our adaptive management approach, where feasible, native tree planting may be coordinated with a local landscape professional to support habitat value and resilience. Next slide, please. The project should only take 1 day. It would be pre-work setup, equipment staging, tree removal, stump grinding, debris removal, site cleanup, and then if needed, immediate site stabilization. So weather permitting, 1 day. Next slide. For further references on the location, I've attached the USGS topographic map of FEMA Fermet, and then the other references that were in the slides. And you are welcome to contact me through these methods. Thank you.
Fantastic. That was by far the best presentation we had this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Very informative. Thank you. Okay. I don't have any questions on this. Elena?
No notes on this either. I just wanted to thank Alexis for hanging in there with us through this process. So thank you for, being such a trooper through the whole filing process.
I couldn't have done it without you. So thank you for helping me hold my hand. Appreciate it.
Of course, yes, and nothing else to note.
Yeah. I think that Alexis might have a side gig here if she wants one.
Honestly,
Yeah, that was excellent.
For the whole neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and just want to remind members of the public, in case you brought supporters, to provide public comment, please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, you mentioned something like structurally deficient for the tree. Is an arborist looked at it and say, is it diseased, or is it just that it's leaning, threatening the houses?
So some of the branches are diseased and dead and need to be removed, but the actual structure is compromised and at risk. And we've had 3 arborists now confirm that and provide us estimates for removal, which we were informed they won't do it without a permit. So here we are.
Good move. The other question I had, you said stump removal, and then we talked about stump grinding, which is the normal way you get rid of it. Are you grinding it down to level ground, or are you going down a foot, or do you know what you're doing there?
Just to level ground, just to where the mulch is left, just to ensure that the full tree is not going to grow back again since it's an invasive species.
Yeah, no, that's not quite stump. When you said stump removal, I could imagine the size of that tree. That was going to be a big hole.
Oh yeah, we'll be grinding it down and then fill it in with mulch, and then eventually think about landscaping, planting some native plants.
That's fine. And then you're probably going to put 2 new air conditioners in the house because it's going to be damn hot in that house when you get rid of that tree.
Oh, will it? We haven't thought that far. We just moved about 4 months ago. So try to just make sure we're good to the neighbors and good to the utility lines, and trying to do our part as soon as possible to mitigate
no
risk.
problem. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Linay?
Thank you for your presentation. I am working on Chandler Pond, so it's great to have some invasives removed out of the equation. And thanks for coming before us. I wanted to just ask you a couple quick questions. Will the crane have to pull into your yard to access the tree? And will they take any steps to minimize compaction? Like laying down mats or that kind of thing, do you know?
That's the goal. So our front yard is actually fenced off. So the first step will be removing that fence, creating a pathway, and then it's actually kind of a landscaped gravel path. So the only way for it to be smooth would be to lay over wood boards or something to create some sort of steady platform that the wheels or it all can move smoothly. So my guess is that it'll be minimal mess to the sidewalk and such. It'll be mainly in our front yard that they will be putting boards over the current landscape in order to access the tree. And it's on a hill that doesn't have any stairs or any infrastructure. So the hill will most likely be, I don't know, torn up from all the construction work and stuff. But in the end, it's not really a part of the yard that's used. So we'll just wait for spring. Does that answer the question? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks. And then, and then maybe I'll just make a plug for planting a replacement native tree, which I think you referenced in the.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We worked with Christy Dustman. I don't know if anybody knows of her, but she designed the landscape and we love the yard. So we're looking forward to continuing more native plants. And to support Chandler Pond because we are so fortunate to live on it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, no, this is all great. Thank you. Appreciated doing it the right way. And yeah, I agree that the split trunk is not a good structural attribute, at least by that tree. So yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Herbst?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Elena, did we get any hands raised? Any emails?
No
Anything in
hands
chat?
raised and no emails either.
Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability with standard erosion control conditions.
So moved.
We have a second. Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 5-0. Okay, thank you. Good luck. Enjoy
Thank you
your
so much.
your new landscaping.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a great night, everyone.
Okay, next item on the agenda, request for an extension to the original order of conditions for DEP file number 0061761, Boston file number 2021-008 from Ecotech Inc. on behalf of the Holyhood Cemetery Association for the proposed ongoing maintenance activities within the Sawmill Brook corridor located at 1000 LaGrange Street in West Roxbury. Resource areas, land under waterways, inland bank, bordering land subject to flooding, riverfront area, waterfront area, and 100-foot buffer to inland bank. Okay, who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Good evening, John Rockwood from Ecotech, and Jim McGonigal, who's the new general manager of the cemetery, is on the call as well.
Great.
Basically, we're here to request a 3-year extension permit for the ongoing stream maintenance at this property. Over the next slide. Don't want to jump ahead with what I'm saying. Basically, the order was issued in March of 2021, and the Permit Extension Act extended it to 2026. We've made the request for an extension permit within the proper time frame. And basically, the notice was filed originally at the request of the then conservation staff, such that the work along the river corridor that had been going on for years and years and years would actually be covered by an order that had some conditions and whatever else. And basically, the order covers the cemetery generally within about 100 feet of Sawmill Brook, and all the resource areas listed before are located within that corridor. Next slide, please. Basically, work has been conducted from 2021 to January 2026, and every spring the blockages in the river were removed. There's 4 or 5 crossings, and the upgradient side of all the culverts seems to collect all the woody debris, and then you get leaf dams behind that, and it slows the water flow through the culverts. Basically, this work was proposed to eliminate flooding, maintain the stream flow from the Newton Boston municipal boundary to Baker Street. And invasive plants were removed, bittersweet, honeysuckle, buckthorn, Japanese barberry, and there were a couple of pretty good sized patches of knotweed that were removed as well. And several trees and shrubs in the corridor were cut down and removed. They were pest or disease infested, overgrown, or they were invasive. All these materials were disposed of off-site. Deadwood and damaged branches were pruned, and several saplings and over 50 shrubs have been established so far along the river corridor to mitigate for the trees that have been removed and the shrubs that were pulled. Most of the shrubs along the river corridor were actually invasives. And I was told recently that the cemetery has increased its budget for plantings, and we're going to work to fill in gaps along this river corridor, generally sort of at the top of bank rather than on steep side slopes of the channel. I have some pictures and you'll see exactly what all that looks like. If we can go to the next slide. It's generally in good condition. Annually, there are blockages and leaf dams that need to be removed when observed, trees to be assessed for hazard status and removed as necessary, deadwood to be removed to promote tree health and safety. Basically, there's a big concern that if a branch falls out of one of these trees, it's a cemetery and people are visiting the cemetery. Something could fall and result in damage to a vehicle or a person, and the cemetery is really cognizant of that. And then there's one patch of knotweed left that needs to be removed, and other invasive species will be pulled as they come back into the corridor, because invasives isn't once and done, it's a lifetime commitment. There'll be additional native saplings and shrubs to be established, and seed will be spread in sparsely vegetated areas. Most of the area to the top of the slope of the channel is lawn and grasses associated with the cemetery, but there are some areas with there's an area with the knotweed that needs to be vegetated with something after that's removed. And then there's 4 or 5 riprap areas that were repaired that need to be inspected and restored as necessary. If we could have the next slide. This is a picture of the, you issued a certificate of compliance for this project recently. This is the red barn and the annex. This is that patch of knotweed at the end of the annex. And you can see that there's a number of shrubs on the bank here. Those were planted as part of the mitigation for the red barn. So that's where some plants are going. There's other plants over on the other side of the brook. If we can have the next slide. We're sort of moving upstream with a picture every now and then going upstream at this point. This is the upgrading end of the first crossing, just upgrading of that building. You can see that this one's clear at this time. They basically reach down with rakes and take the material, the trash, the woody debris and leaves out at all of these culverts periodically when it's observed. Next slide. And this is where the sewer easement or water easement that connects into Sawmill Brook. And this is the next crossing up gradient of the previous one, and we can see the ducks swimming happily in the open channel. And up here you can actually see some of the pruning of damaged branches. This one's actually green, so and that's sap running. Next slide, please. This is a close-up of that. You can see all the little cut branches on those couple of trees there. Next slide. We're moving further upstream. You can see some of the trees along the stream channel, the various, the side slopes. This one's essentially lawn down to the edge. This one's more mulch and leaf litter down to the edge. The intent would be through time to plant some shrubs or other saplings in these open areas along the stream corridor to get the corridor back enclosed within sort of a little forested canopy. This is the next slide. This shows one of the typical blockages. There was probably a log across the stream that fell, then it broke in half, fell down, and then you start collecting leaf matter. This is how you start to get some flooding effects. Of course, the channel is relatively incised, so we'd have to flood pretty deep to get out of the channel. But if this were to happen in front of a culvert, it doesn't take that much material to block one of those culverts. So this is something that would be removed by hand, and the channel would just be opened up. It's all really handwork. Next slide. This just shows some of the woody debris, and all the woody debris that falls into the stream gets caught up on the bottom and just collects leaf dams. This slide here shows about 50 shrubs that were planted along the river corridor as part of the project. Some shrubs were removed, so we put some back. You can see some on this side over here as well. Next slide. Again, it's a fairly incised channel, and it probably only flows generally about 1.5 feet deeper than this, unless we have extreme precipitation. Again, this is the upper end. That house is actually in Newton, and there's a couple of piles of material in the channel. And these are a couple of saplings, native saplings that were planted along the river corridor. The next slide is going to show several at the top of the other bank. So again, the intent is to do work to maintain the corridor. All the work's pretty much done by hand. And there's another row of looks like red maples that are planted there. This is an area that's ripe for some shrub planting, and other areas along that are also ripe for that as well. Then one more slide, I think. And we can see that there's rabbits and other critters moving up and down the stream corridor. So it's well used by ducks. It's well used by mammals, small mammals. So it actually is sort of a little riverine corridor across the cemetery site. Again, are there any questions on this?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rockwood. That was very comprehensive. Appreciate that.
Well, I couldn't be outdone by the non-consultant,
No, exactly. But you may be able to use her on your team at some point. So anyway, my question, I'll leave the nuts and bolts questions to my more talented colleagues on the commission here. But my question is more about process. I know that you were involved in the site at the beginning. You haven't been involved in a while. There was some deliverables that weren't given the staff. I think there were pre-construction plans and things of that nature. How are we doing about getting those deliverables into staff?
Yeah. What I've done, there's 11 conditions that Elena brought to my attention. And when Nick put this order together, a lot of these conditions really aren't applicable to this kind of project. They're more related to a project that's going to have, pavement or a house or something, or an increase in impervious area. What I was going to do is put a response together. I know that Jim has gone through the files and had his staff go through the files. Tom DeMayo was the manager when we got the order, and Jim's taken over fairly recently. I don't know the exact date he started, but as soon as he came on board, he contacted me. We requested the COC for the barn project, and he contacted me about this project as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a response together to the 11 conditions and get that to staff. We have the 2005, relative to condition 68, we have the 2005 list of work that was done. We can provide that. It was sort of summarized in my submittal, but we can provide that. We don't have anything from 2021 to 2024. If Tom created them, they're someplace and only he'd know where they would be. But Jim can talk about what they did at the office. So I will put this together and get this to Elena within the next 3 days. The other thing, I spoke to Jim, and in order to prevent this kind of thing from happening again, he's willing to retain Ecotech to conduct a spring inspection and conduct a fall inspection and provide the letter to the commission. That way it's sort of a third party that's doing it, as opposed to the actual cemetery association itself. That way there's a push. You know how I prepare documents left and right, and I did 6 years of monitoring between the 2 restoration areas on Willett, and everything was always submitted. So we'll stay on top of it. It goes right into my calendar, and again, Jim's agreed to that, and that's probably a good way to deal with it. Again, there's we didn't have a pre-construction meeting. We can certainly this spring, after the snow melts, have the conservation staff come out and we can walk it to sort of make up for that. We didn't have to do final revised plans because the plans weren't changed after the order was issued. So there's several of those. We don't really need a construction and post-construction snow management plan, because all we're doing is little activities within open space. And I'm sure the cemetery has been plowing the cemetery road pathways, roads there the same way for forever. Again, that's something Jim can talk about. And basically native and non-invasive shrubs are planted. They might not necessarily be native, but they're not invasive for some of them. Some of them are varietal, but they're not something that's going to explode into the environment and spread across the site. Moving forward, we're going to try to just get pure natives as part of that. And we just need to provide operation and maintenance logs for the little riprap areas. Again, those weren't prepared. I'll have to inspect those areas this spring, see what their status is, and then that's something that can be addressed this year. Jim indicated that he knows a small order of riprap was delivered to the site, so it's possible that work was done. We just need to inspect them. So I'm going to get back involved with this actively, being at the property at least twice a year or as needed, and prepare the letter and make sure that conditions 55 and 68 are addressed annually. That deals with the operations and maintenance log for the BMPs and the management and monitoring report relative to work that occurs during the course of the year.
Okay, fantastic. So it sounds like Jim is in good hands. Elena, I'm going to hand it off to you. Everything that John said makes sense to me. Let me know if it works for you. And I also just wondering out loud if we should put into this extension an additional condition regarding environmental monitoring that John will be doing.
I think that makes sense. And I know that when I initially had thought about this, and John, again, I appreciate you sort of brainstorming with me and trying to figure out how we can best get everything up to speed in our files. As I mentioned, we were out on site, and while we didn't walk the entire length of the area that's being managed, again, we didn't have any, red flags based on that. So I think it's appropriate to I mean, yeah, we're recommending that the commission extend the order of conditions for this work. But what we might want to do is include that as a requirement in the cover letter, because I'm realizing now that if we were going to go back through and actually change the conditions, that would require an amendment. But if we have it in the cover letter, that should make it clear. And then we have that for our records as well.
Okay, that makes sense. Good. Thank you.
Jim,
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, you mentioned that when you take the debris out, whether it leaves or trees, whatever, they remove off-site. Where is off-site?
Yeah, Jim could answer that.
Yes, Commissioner, we have all the landscaping at the cemetery is outsourced. So we have a landscape company that comes in and they remove any of that debris that we collect.
And they just take it away somewhere else and mulch it up.
Yeah, I could find out where it's the same company that's been doing it for years now. They have the contract through 2028, actually.
Yeah, no, I just curious. Every now and then I cruise to the different cemeteries and I always find they have a place where they have a whole bunch of stuff hanging around. And then it miraculously disappears. And I know you guys are in the business of burying stuff, but I didn't know what you did with it.
We're not burying those.
Okay, just curious. All right. No, that's all. That's all I had.
Thank you. Before I go on, just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Just wanted to follow up on the cover letter, Elena, that would be adding the requirement that there be an environmental monitor to perform the functions that John is going to be performing. So if we don't get it into an order of conditions and it's just a cover letter from you, it doesn't really have a lot of effect. It's nice to have in the file. So what I'm wondering is if this letter could say something like underneath your signature, if you are in agreement with the above conditions, terms of this letter, and have Jim sign it, then we'd have something that we could theoretically enforce.
I think that sounds good. I'm just making a note of that.
Okay. And I can help you with
yeah.
it when you get to it.
That sounds great. Yeah, I'll run that language by you.
Jim, you have any problem with that?
No, not at all. Our goal is to maintain this as if you don't know, the brook runs right through the entire center of our property, and it's really a focal point. And as John mentioned, we did increase our budget just to deal with cleaning this and maintaining it going forward.
Yeah. Appreciate it, and it's a beautiful site, and not asking for that level of commitment is nothing personal about you. It's you may move on at some point, and we just want something in the files that would alert your successor.
Understand completely. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
And Chair Parker, just I guess an additional thought, which you were probably also thinking about, is that this allows the commission a chance to reassess this in 3 years when, an extension has to be issued again. So if 3 years have gone by and we have the information that we need, then, we can explore a different avenue if that's appropriate.
There you go. Good idea. Okay. Commissioner Linay.
I don't have any questions, but I'm glad to see you're keeping an eye on that knotweed. So thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, likewise, no further questions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Herbst?
No questions from me. Thank you.
Okay, great. So, Elena, anybody from the public in the chat raising their hands or sending
None of the above. No, I'm not seeing anything.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I would entertain a motion to extend the original order of conditions for DEP file number 0061761 and Boston file number 2021-008 with a cover letter that will spell out the terms and conditions of environmental monitoring at the site.
And Chair Parker, and close the hearing.
And close the hearing as well. Why not?
Moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. I hope you all weren't waiting for Commissioner Sullivan.
You have to wait 11 months. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Linay,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So that carries 5-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Take
you
care,
very
Jeff.
much.
Good luck. Okay. Okay, there's been a continuance, and that continuance is notice of intent for DEP file number 006-2042 and Boston file number 2025-014. We'll now begin our regular meeting. And the first item on the agenda is a request for a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 006. 1738 in Boston file number 2020-020 from RJ O'Connell and Associates on behalf of Barkin Management Company for the renovation of an existing amenity deck located at 1241 to 1255 Adams Street in Dorchester. Resource areas bordering land subject to flooding, inland bank, riverfront area, waterfront area, and 100-foot buffer to inland bank. Eleanor, what's the situation here?
Yes, so staff conducted a site visit on February 19th and confirmed that work had been done in substantial compliance with the order of conditions. We confirmed that there hasn't been any flooding or ponding issues on site since construction, so it seems like the stormwater management improvements have been successful. And we would recommend issuing a complete certificate of compliance with perpetual maintenance conditions number 44, 46, 52, 65, and 68.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, the pavers look like they're clean there. I remember this. This took a lot longer to permit than I had expected when they first came in front of us. Does anybody have any questions on this one? I guess not. Elena, could you read back the conditions that we need to keep? We're going to make perpetual.
Yes,
48.
44, 46, 52, 65, and 68.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if there are no questions, I would entertain a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 006-1738 and Boston file number 2020-020, keeping perpetual maintenance conditions, perpetual conditions of 44, 46, 52, 65, and 68. Please. Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 5-0. Okay, request for a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 006-1834 from Niche Engineering on behalf of the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the proposed roadway improvements located at Cipher Street, Richard Street, E Street, and Fargo Street in South Boston. Resource area land subject to coastal storm flowage. What do we have for that one?
Yes, so this project is not ready to be voted on, and I think the rest of the COCs are not ready to be voted on for a number of reasons. Most of them are just due to not being able to do site visits with all of the snow and actually confirm that work was done in the correct way.
So you made me read through it to make sure I was still awake.
Apologies, yes.
Fantastic. Okay, administrative updates. You're up.
Yes, so the only administrative update we have tonight is for a very similar emergency certification ratification that we had last time around. I wanted to bring it to the commission tonight, but I understand if you would prefer to hold off on ratifying it. I have not done my in-person site visit yet, but we'll be doing that first thing tomorrow morning. But we do have photos that were sent. They look awfully similar to the ones that we received last time. So for folks who either just were not mentally there for that part of the hearing by the end of our hearing last time around, or who did not attend the hearing last time around, the U.S. Coast Guard base at 427 Commercial Street often runs into an issue with snow management when it comes to blizzard conditions. The weight of the snow starts to become a structural hazard. So they reached out to us about a month ago when we had the first big snow and asked for permission to dispose of the clean, freshly fallen snow into the Boston Harbor. They did so again this time around, and we believe that it was appropriate. The last time around, they did everything in accordance with the guidance that we have received from DEP most recently, and we believe that that's the case again this time. But like I said, if you would like to hold off on ratifying this until I've done my in-person site visit, I completely understand.
So quick question on that. They don't treat the snow with salt or the
They do not.
platform with salt. So it's okay. I've seen
Yeah.
them do that before. It's actually with their front loaders. And yeah, yeah. Actually, it was a few weeks ago, I think. Right?
So they did this about a month ago during the first
Yeah,
snow.
yeah,
Now they
yeah.
had to do it again with Monday's snow.
Yeah, got it. I don't have any questions. Does anybody have any objections to ratifying the emergency?
No, I don't, but I had a question. If someone had a barge anchored in the harbor and it had 2 feet of snow on it, and they wanted to get rid of that snow, just dump it overboard, is that under our jurisdiction if they're floating? Not
I
tied
think
up?
that there's a specific amount of miles from shore, but assuming that it's, I mean, reasonably within, like if it's within our line of sight from the land, that would be within our jurisdiction, and they're permitted to do that, assuming they meet the correct criteria, but they would still need to reach out to us, and they would need to be issued an emergency
Right.
certification.
Yeah.
All right.
Have
Yeah,
you
it's right in a
witnessed
resource area. I
a
think
barge?
it'd have to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has
I
that
just
I mean,
didn't
happened before?
it's the same reason we, ask them for spill prevention, right? If they hydraulic fluids, whatever,
Yeah.
it's in our jurisdiction. Yeah.
Yeah. I just didn't know how far out the jurisdiction went. I mean, obviously the islands are in our jurisdiction if they're
Yeah.
in the Boston boundaries, and so we get them. So that's like an island. Whatever.
I
It's
want to
12
say
miles
for,
for gam.
sorry.
I was gonna say it's 12 miles for gambling and usually 3 miles for everything else.
I was about to say 3 miles is, yeah, that's
Yeah.
stuck in my mind. So, probably 3 miles.
Wow. We just expanded our jurisdiction by a factor of 50. Okay. Anything else, Eleanor? Oh, you want us to ratify your emergency?
Yes, if you're comfortable
Okay.
doing so.
Yep. Okay. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to ratify the emergency, what do you call it again? Emergency order?
Certification.
Certification. Ratify the emergency certification regarding the Coast Guard snow management.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan,
Aye.
Commissioner Linay,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So that carries 5-0. Okay, anything else, Eleanor? Okay.
Nothing for admin updates, just meeting minutes.
Okay, so I reviewed January 14th, the best one ever, because Commissioner Sullivan made 7 motions. January 28th, and Commissioner Herbst reviewed February 11th. So I think they're all ready to go. So any questions on the meeting minutes? Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes from January 14th, 2026, January 28th, 2026, and February 11th, 2026.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan,
Aye.
Commissioner Linay,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So that carries 5-0. Okay. And Commissioner Herbst, I have to apologize to you. I realized what happened when I had that lapse at the beginning of the hearing about the MEPA filing.
Oh,
I had turned the page and I was looking at 9 soil borings being advanced. And for some reason in my head, I was thinking, and I think this has to do with the new regulations we've reviewed, I was thinking that the proponents were talking about their future work, because I think in the new regs, we're going to ask for more detail and public process, right? So for some reason in my head, I was thinking, we just got all this information because that's what's coming, and they're only doing the soil borings today. So, or at this time. So that's why I was thinking, was it really a MEPA like review for soil boring? So I apologize. I couldn't figure it out till we got to that. I was like, why was I like, well, where was I here? But sort of interesting. So anyway, sorry about the confusion there. So with that, I think we're all set. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Thank you, staff, for putting this all together under some extreme circumstances here. Understand why you didn't do all the site visits. And Elena, as far as like, our pace now. Are we now in the second and fourth Wednesdays of the months? Have we like
So let's
changed up?
see. Yes. So we will be in the second and fourth Wednesday for March. Sorry, I'm doing this month by month because I know that it
Yeah.
swaps back again at some point. Okay, there are 5 Wednesdays in April. Second and fourth Wednesday in April, and then we're back to first and
1 and
third
3.
Wednesday in May.
In May. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So with that, a acclamation to adjourn. Any objections?
No.
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right. Good night.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you all.